mercy. Thankful that your presence makes this place holy, the time that we shall share tonight. And we pray that everything that we do is pleasing in your sight, brings you glory, and provides information that is necessary and critical for your people. Thank you for this blessing. Thank you for your presence. And thank you for keeping us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And now for a few Zoom protocols. We're asking all participants to remain muted unless they are asked to respond to the presenter. Zoom participants are asked to post your questions and your comments to the chat. Those of you on social media platforms are asked to email your questions to socijustministry@fbhp.org. That's SOCI-JUST-ministry@fbhp.org. We will endeavor to get back to you after this presentation. If you didn't get the email address, it'll be mentioned and posted during the presentation several times. Finally, be prepared to take notes. This is a fast-paced workshop with great information that will be helpful to you as you navigate your way through the process of voting in this year's elections. Technology is only as good as when everything works. So just in case we get disconnected, please reconnect immediately. We will continue with this workshop. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your participation and your commitment. Next will be Ms. Audrey Chase, the Vice President of the Social Justice Ministry, and she will share our goals and introduce our pastor.
Good evening, participants. I know that many of you have been following the work of the Social Justice Ministry since its inception in May of 2019, so you may already know or have heard that this ministry is committed to engaging the church and the surrounding community in its mission to address injustice. Specifically, it is our effort to collaborate with each other in order to answer the call. We firmly believe that we must engage the passion and the energy of the oppressed. That means all of us, in order to eradicate the injustices that lie within our own communities. The injustice that we are addressing tonight is that of voter suppression by way of misinformation and miseducation. Our Civics 101 goal and purpose this evening is very simple: to further inform, to further energize, and further provide strategies for our participants to identify their voice, their strength, and the options available on the voting platform and in the upcoming primary. Participants, I hope you are ready to engage tonight, for the work of social justice activism and community uplift is about to begin. Having laid this groundwork, I am now very pleased to present to you the illustrious head of the First Baptist Church of Highland Park, Pastor Henry P. Davis III. Dr. Davis, are you in the house?
Good evening, glad to be here with you, Vice President Chase, President Boyd, and every person who's a part of this engaging, exciting evening. Your vote counts. And again, we're so grateful for this ministry and all the information that we will gather tonight as we seek to be better informed. And we certainly salute the Social Justice Ministry for carrying out this vision so that we might impact the world, our community, in a powerful way. And so we're looking forward to the July Maryland primary. And of course, we want to make sure that we are engaged, not just in the presidential election, but in all elections. Even in our local area, we're dealing with seats being vacated and decisions being made. And so all of those decisions are very critical, very important. So it's, again, thank you for joining us tonight. We're delighted that you're a part of what we're all going to glean and learn as a result of this evening. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Davis. It's always good to see you. My job for the evening is to introduce our presenter. She is equipped with fun facts and zeal. Her name is Dania Y. Lofton. She is an assertive campaigner. She has an ENFP designation, which I learned tonight. The E stands for enthusiasm. And to see her, to hear her, to know her is to know that that E is certainly very appropriate for Ms. Lofton. She empowers audiences through educational enrichment with her carefully curated approaches to civic education and social action. This government affairs professional and former campaign organizer has mastered the art, yes, she has, of keeping audience engaged while informing them on some of the most complex and at times intimidating legislative doctrines and processes. She also tells us about the duties and the functions of legislatures. Dania is a public policy expert, a mental health advocate, advisor, HBCU graduate, active member of the Fort Washington alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, and just recently she has been designated as the Social Action Commissioner for Delta Sigma Theta National. Here's a quote from her, and I love this. It says that knowledge is essential for change and growth. Civic education and engagement empowers citizens to hold themselves and their representatives accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our illustrious Dania Y. Lofton. Take it away, Dania.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. All right. Just want to make sure you can hear me. So it is so important as we approach July 19th. July 19th is when we will vote for our local county officials if you are in Prince George's County. So tonight, I want you to sit, take some notes, pay close attention, and try to digest this, maybe not right now, but a little bit later, because you need to know this information when you go to the polls, before you get to the polls. So when you're researching the members or the candidates, you know who is representing you and who will represent you the way that you want to be represented. So without any further ado, we are going to go back into Democracy Under Siege and look at this presentation. I hope that you'll enjoy it. I do want to say that if you do, when we're doing the exercises, some of the information hasn't been updated just yet, but will be updated by the July presentation. So don't be alarmed if we get to that section and you're like, wait, that's not it anymore. Now, as I promised, without any further ado, Democracy Under Siege, Civics 101. Thank you. I'm really excited to join you all this morning to talk about civics, and more specifically, we're going to hit a lot of information, and we're going to start with the federal level, move down to the state level, and then quickly talk about the county level. Again, my name is Dania Lofton. I'm really, really excited about this. I'm ready just to get right into it. So today I have a few objectives. I want to provide you a high-level overview of the U.S. branches of government. I want to make sure that you understand the functions of government and understand the legislative process. Because once you understand the legislative process at the federal level, the state and local level, county, if in the Prince George's County level, you will understand how legislation is passed. So we're going to hit a lot of information. We're going to start with the federal government. We're going to talk about the branches of government, understanding the functions of Congress and the federal legislative process. We're going to then move on to the Maryland General Assembly, where I'll give you an overview of the General Assembly, how to find your legislator or any legislator in the Maryland General Assembly, as well as how to understand a bill. I'll talk about the Prince George's County Council very briefly, and then I'll close. I will tell you that when we get to the Maryland General Assembly, it is interactive. You'll need something to write with or something to type with. You'll need to open up another screen. But when we get there, I will let you know. So the three branches of government, I'm sure most of us know, are the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch. Today, I'm going to talk about them, not necessarily in order. I'm going to start with the judicial branch, then talk about the executive branch, and then go into the legislative branch. I saved the legislative branch for last because we're going to dig into it just a little bit, not too much, because if we went all the way into it, we'd be here for days. So the judicial branch. The judicial branch interprets laws. It is our court system. That's where you have the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land, and that has 9 justices, 1 chief justice, and 8 associate justices, and they overturn laws that violate the U.S. Constitution. You also have your federal courts, and that is also a slew of judges. There are too many judges to even try to name, and what they do is they handle the federal business of the United States judicial system. Now, I said that the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. A fun fact, there's actually 1 court higher than the Supreme Court. If you did not know, or some of you may already know, that the technical highest court in the land would be the basketball court that is atop of the Supreme Court. Just a little fun fact, but not really. The Supreme Court is the highest court of the land. Next, we have the executive branch. And in the executive branch, you know, there's the president, there's the vice president, and the cabinet members. And we know those cabinet members as the Secretary of State, the Secretary of HUD, the Attorney General. There are 15 of them. And what the executive branch does is it enforces the laws created by Congress. And the president, he can either pass or veto bills. And each year, the president submits a budget to Congress. So now let's talk about the legislative branch. There are 540 members in the legislative branch. It sounds like a lot because it is a lot. So you have 100 senators, 2 senators from each state who serve 6-year terms. And currently the majority is Democrat. Really, it's a 50-50 split. So, or there are 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, and 2 independents that caucus with Democrats. So they go on the Democrat side. In the event that there is a tiebreaker or there's a tie on a piece of legislation, 50 of the Republicans vote for it and 50 of the Democrats, or 48 of the Democrats and 2 of those independents vote oppositely, the vice president is the tiebreaker, which makes it the majority Democrat. In the House, you have 435 United States representatives that are voting. Then you have 4 delegates from the U.S. territories and the District of Columbia who are non-voting members. And you have 1 resident commissioner from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Hopefully really soon we will have 3 delegates, because we hope that the District of Columbia will become a state and become a voting delegate. Each member of the House serves 2-year terms. Currently, the majority is Democrat. Do you know who is representing you? If you don't, please visit www.congress.gov/members. You can type in your information and it will tell you who your legislators are. Each state, everyone will have the exact same senators, but our representatives all vary because it is based off of the district that you live in. So the legislative branch, they create the laws. They draft bills, they propose bills, and once they get that bill through the legislative process, it goes over to the president. Once the president signs it, it becomes a law. They also appropriate funds. So they approve that budget that the president sends over, and then they take the funds and they say who gets what. So let's talk about the legislative process. The legislative process, you have a bill that's drafted, and it always starts off as a bill. Then it goes and it's introduced by a sponsor. Your sponsor is your member of Congress. So that can be a senator or a congresswoman or congressman. It then goes over into committee. It will go over to subcommittee if necessary. The bill is marked up. It goes back to the chamber. And I apologize, there are 2 chambers in Congress. You have the Senate, that's 1 chamber, and you have the House of Representatives, that's another chamber. So that's the Senate and the House of Representatives. So if the bill starts with a senator, it's going to go to the Senate first for the full chamber vote. And then it's referred over to the opposite chamber, in this case, which would be the House of Representatives. Once they both agree, both houses agree, or both chambers agree, It then goes over to the president. Once it's signed by the president, it becomes a law. So all legislation starts off as a bill, and once it's passed by both chambers and signed by the president, it becomes a law. Now, the president can either sign the bill, can veto the bill, or ignore the bill. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. So here's the Senate legislative process. Again, a senator will sponsor a bill. The bill then goes to a committee for study. The bill is then put on a calendar to be voted on, debated, or amended. The bill must pass by a majority, so 51, and then the bill goes over to the House. Once it goes over into the House, it's assigned to a House committee. If the House makes any changes to that bill, if it amends it or anything, the bill has to go back to the Senate, and then the Senate has to review that bill and agree with it with the House changes. Once they agree with it, it goes back to the House. The House then approves it by majority, and then the bill returns to the Senate and the House for final approval. Both of them agree. Once they approve that bill, it goes over to the president. Now, the president has 10 days to veto the bill or sign the bill into law. If the president just decides that he doesn't want to sign it, he wants to ignore it, it becomes a law. Process is the same over in the House. A representative or a congresswoman or congressman will sponsor the bill. The bill is then assigned to a committee for study. It's put on the calendar. It's assigned to a Senate committee. If the Senate makes any changes, it goes back to the House like it did before, and the bill is reviewed in the House and the Senate. They both agree. It returns back to the House and Senate for a final approval. Again, the president has 10 days to veto the bill, sign the bill, or ignore the bill. At any rate, once the president signs that bill into law, it is effective then. So I know I'm going really quickly. If you have any questions, please send them to the Social Justice Ministry, which is right here at the bottom of the screen, or you can contact me via LinkedIn at Dania Y. Lofton. So now we're going to move on to the Maryland General Assembly. So this is the State House, and I want to give y'all just a few fun facts about the State House. This is the oldest continuously used state house in the country. It was the only state house, state capitol, that was once the nation's capital. In this state house, George Washington walked in. He resigned as commander-in-chief. This is where the Treaty of Paris was signed, which ends the Revolutionary War. And I don't know if you can quite see it, but at the very top here, there is a lightning rod, and that is built specifically to Benjamin Franklin's specifications. So this house is really full of history, and it's really, really cool. So now we're going to talk about the Maryland General Assembly. Again, I want to provide you an overview of the Maryland General Assembly. We're going to learn how to navigate the Maryland General Assembly online so that you can go and find your legislators. You can find information about bills. And then I want to make sure that you acquire the skills, knowledge, and tools that you need to identify the functions of the General Assembly, which again includes the members, the committees, and the bills. So this is where we're going to need you to get a piece of paper, a pen, something to type on, because we are going to do some interactive functions right now. So if you would, I'm going to give you a second to go to this website in another window, and it's https://mga.maryland.gov/MGA website/. In just a few moments, we'll come back to this window and you will be able to do the activity that we have. So here's a overview of the Maryland General Assembly. It's a bicameral government, which means that it has a Senate and House of Delegates. And really quickly, I want to distinguish this. So at the federal level, you have the House of Representatives, and those members you refer to as Congresswoman or Congressman or Representative. Whereas at the state level, you have the House of Delegates, and you refer to them in Maryland as delegate. There were 188 members, which represent the 47 districts in Maryland. There are 47 senators, 1 senator per district, and 141 delegates. There are 3 delegates per district. They are elected each gubernatorial year for a term of 4 years. So next year, we will elect these members of the General Assembly. Every year, the General Assembly convenes on the second Wednesday of January for 90 days, with a few exceptions. So, what does the Maryland General Assembly do? They enact laws, they raise revenues and appropriate funds, and they propose amendments to the Maryland Constitution. So you see the similarities. They do the exact same thing that the Congress does at the federal level, except for they do it on the state level. And if you voted in the last election, you would have seen a few of these questions, not these questions, but this is a sample of the amendments that they propose that you vote for. So make sure that you are registered to vote. And I know that later on today, we're going to talk a little bit more about registering to vote and the importance of voting. Here's the organizational chart of the Maryland General Assembly. If you notice, I put you at the top. If you are a voter, you are at the top because you elect these members to represent you. You elect these senators and these delegates who make up the General Assembly. From there, you have the Senate, which is led by the Senate President, Bill Ferguson, and then you have the Senate Standing Committees. In the other chamber, you have the House of Delegates, which is ran by the Speaker of the House, Adrian A. Jones, and you also have those House Standing Committees. And then you have where the Senate and the House of Delegates meet, and they form the Joint Statutory Committees and Legislative Policy Committees. So I want to hit on this one. This is a notable first in Maryland's General Assembly. Adrian Jones is the Speaker of the House. She is the first African-American and first woman to hold this position. So this is amazing. This is great because it's 2021. And remember, I told you that the Maryland General Assembly is one of the oldest assemblies in the countries, right? So it took hundreds of years for us to get here, but we are here. So let's keep up this momentum. Let's keep up the same energy. So let's talk about how you find your legislator. Pay attention to this video because immediately after this, we're going to have an activity and I want to make sure that you know exactly what to do. Uh-oh. I apologize.
Whether you're taking action in your community, doing a paper for school, or have a professional need, there may come a time where you will want to get in touch with a legislator, also called legislative member of the Maryland General Assembly, MGA. This website offers a couple of different ways to do that. You can use a map, you can search a list of members, or you can use the publications provided by the information desk. I can use the map to find out who my state or federal representatives are if I know what district I live in or the district number I am interested in. I can also use the map to search based on geographic points of interest. To do this, I'll click Members on the navigation bar or find my representative on the Members submenu. I want to find out who my state representatives are, so I'll select Legislative for state and then click the area of the map with my district number, 30A. This will show me the district number and the names of my representatives. From here, I could contact all of the state legislators via email at once by selecting Contact My Legislators. But for now, I just want to look at more detailed information about my legislator, Senator Elfreth, so I click her name here. This will open a new browser tab and take me to her member page where I can see her contact information, a list of bills and bonds that she sponsored, and a biography. If I want to find representatives for a specific address, I would click the lookup button enter the street address and zip code, and click Find. Let's find the representative for 90 State Circle. The zip code is 21401. This will provide a list of the state and federal representatives for the address entered. If I already know which MGA member I'm looking for, I can use either the Senate or House lists. To search for Senator Elfreth, I will select Senate from the Members submenu. This will open a page that shows every member of that body with the leadership at the top and the general membership below. The list can be sorted alphabetically, the default view, using the Name button, numerically by district number by using the District button, or by county by using the County button. If you're interested in finding information about past members or a guide to Maryland and its government, you can find it under the Related Links submenu. If you're looking for a membership list or other documents related to members of the Maryland General Assembly, you can find them under the Publications submenu. Finally, to learn more about members and the MGA in general, use the About button on the Members submenu. If you have any questions or comments, go to the footer at the bottom of the page and select Contact Us. Click Send Feedback to send an email to webmaster@mgadls.state.md.us. Thank you for visiting the Maryland General Assembly.
Did you pay attention to that? Because I hope you did. We're about to do our first skills check. So again, go to that website that I mentioned earlier. If you weren't able to log in then, you can log in now using this information. And I want you to provide me the following. I want you to find the state senator for District 24 using the Legislative Search tab. And then I want you to tell me how many delegates does District 24 have. I want you to find your state senator and state delegates using the Lookup Search tab. And tell me, what is your Maryland State District? Who is your senator? And who is or are your delegates? We're going to take 2 minutes and do this. Uh-oh.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. The link that she made reference to is in the chat. As you can see, this is a rebroadcast because the information was so important. We wanted to make sure that you got it again and that you absolutely understood it. So because we knew that, we knew in advance what you were going to need. So if you look in the chat, the link that she's making reference to is there. Thank you.
Are you?
So I'll give you all just a few moments to get that done. right, that might not have been 2 minutes, but I'm really excited and I know that we have to keep it moving. So the state senator for District 24 is Senator Joanne C. Benson. So if you got that, give yourself 1 star. There are 3 state delegates, and those delegates are Delegate Jazz Lewis, Delegate Eric L. Barron, and Delegate Andrea Fletcher Harrison. And this is part of the Prince George's delegation. Again, the state senator, Senator Joanne C. Benson, she represents Prince George's in whole, and the 3 delegates who are on this screen right now, they represent a portion of Prince George's County. And I hope that you were able to find your state senator and state delegates using that lookup search tab function. But if not, if you didn't have enough time to get to it, you can always go back to this website at the top and look up this information. So let's talk about the committees. There are several committees in the Maryland General Assembly, and I did not have enough room to list all of them, so I listed most of them. So you have your standing Senate committees. This is where the legislation is going to go for study and review when it comes out of the Senate or when it comes from the House and goes over into the Senate. You have your House standing committees that also review, the joint statutory committees that has senators and delegates on it, and your joint standing committees. And you can learn more about these committees by visiting the website at the bottom of this page. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to go back and focus on it really quickly. Again, a bill is a proposed law presented for approval to a legislative body. So a bill is how a law starts. It's also synonymous with legislation. The law is the bill that has gone through the process, the legislative process, and been signed. In this case, if at the state level, it has to be signed by the governor. All legislation or all bills are legislation and all laws are legislation. Not all bills are laws until they are signed by the governor. So remember, a law starts off as a bill, it goes through the process, it's signed by the governor, it then becomes a law. But you can use legislation to talk about them. So let's talk about understanding a bill. Here's another video from the Maryland General Assembly to help you. Again, pay attention to this because we'll have a skills check immediately after this one as well.
There are so many ways to navigate to the information page of a bill. Whether you searched directly or found your way there by following some other trail of information, the bill page contains all the information about a bill in one place. Let's take a look at one now. I'm just going to use the search and archive section of the MGA website to find House Bill 48 from session 2019. On this page, I can quickly view the status of the bill. Here, the timeline shows me that the bill has passed both chambers and was sent to the governor for approval. Clicking on the timeline will open the history detail for this bill. I can see the title of the bill, Esports Act. There are links to the sponsors of the bill. If I wanted more information about one of the sponsors, I would just click their name. Below the sponsors is the status of the bill. This shows that this bill was approved by the governor. Next is a link to the analysis of the bill. Clicking this would open the Fiscal and Policy Note PDF for the bill in a new browser tab. This is followed by a short synopsis description of the bill and the committees the bill is assigned to. Clicking on the committee names will take you to the archive listing for that committee for that session year. You can also access media for the bill when it is discussed in a committee hearing. When media is available, an icon that links to the media page for the hearing will appear next to the committee name. Clicking these will take you directly to the time in the meeting when the bill is being discussed. Finally, the bill history, which includes the committee votes, file code, subjects, and statutes can be displayed by selecting the down arrow next to each section name to display the related information. To collapse this section, simply click the arrow again. The bill page contains all of the relevant information you need to know about a bill and can link you to additional supporting documents and media for that bill. If you have any questions or comments, go to the footer at the bottom of the page and select Contact Us. Click Send Feedback to send an email to webmaster@mgadls.state.md.us. Thank you for visiting the Maryland General Assembly.
And there are two important notes that I want to share with you. The legislative process, in Maryland, in order for a bill to become a law, the bill has to be read 6 times. That's 3 times in each chamber on 3 separate days. So before the bill becomes a law, each chamber has read it 3 times. And in these committees is where the legislation is really dissected and reviewed. This is where they get into the nitty-gritty of the bill. So now let's move on to our next skills check. Again, I hope you were paying attention, and I'm going to give you a moment to go back to the exact same website, and I want you to find Senate Bill 250. Once you've done that, tell me, what is the title of the bill? Who is or are the sponsors of the bill? Remember, sponsors are delegates or senators. In this case, it's going to be a senator because it's a Senate bill. And what committee the bill is assigned to. Again, I'll give you a few moments to do this, and I will join you back.
Oops, I'm sorry, I was supposed to tell you guys again. The link is available in the chat. You can click on it directly there and it will take you directly to the site that Dania makes reference to.
All right, let's talk about this. So what is the title of the bill? The title of this bill is the Criminal Law Sexual Crimes Repeal of Spousal Defense, or Love is No Defense to Sexual Crimes. Who is or are the sponsors? It's sponsored by the two senators listed on the screen. And what committee is the bill assigned to? This was assigned to the Judicial Proceedings Committee. So let's talk about the Department of Legislative Services. The Department of Legislative Services provides you a plethora of information about the General Assembly, the bills before the General Assembly. So you have your Library and Information Services, which again provides you information about the status of the bill, whether the bill is at the first reading, whether it's in the Senate, or whether it's moved over to the House. It talks about the legislative process. And during the session, the State House Information Desk, which is on the ground floor of State House, is manned from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays. So you can walk in there now, because as of July 7th, the State House is open completely to the public. So you can go to Annapolis and you can ask for information about this legislation during the legislative session. Remember, that's the 2nd January of the month, or the 2nd January, not the 2nd January, the 2nd week in January that it starts, and you can go in and ask that information. During the legislative session as well, they talk about the synopsis of the bills introduced, and they issue those daily. Weekly and throughout the year, the department's committee meetings and hearing schedule shows the times and places for legislative committee meetings. Again, the committee meetings is where a lot of the work on the legislation is completed. And the synopsis and hearing schedules are available online and at the information desk in the State House, again on the ground floor, as well as the Legislative Services Building in the basement. You can find copies of bills and joint resolutions at the bill room in the Legislative Services Building. You can have a subscription service for bills, proceedings, and hearing schedules from the distribution services. Again, Visit this website at the bottom of the page to learn more about this. I know I'm going really quickly, so you can really read all of this in detail. Each April, immediately after the adjournment of the General Assembly, the Department of Legislative Services prepares the 90-day report. This gives you an overview of the issues that were before the General Assembly, stuff that passed, significant bills that failed. You can purchase these copies, and the department also publishes legislative committee reports and various index bills. The legislative caucuses track bills of interest to their members, and they may issue newsletters. There are actually 5 official caucuses, and they're all listed right here on the screen. You have the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, the Women Legislators of Maryland, the Maryland Veterans Caucus, the Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus, and the Maryland Legislative Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus. And of course, you can always find out information from your newspaper. Again, I posted this link at the bottom so that you can go back and visit and read all of this information in detail. So let's talk about a few takeaways about the Maryland General Assembly. In the General Assembly, you have 1 senator and 1 to 3 delegates who represent you. Your representatives are assigned to committees, which is where much of the legislature's work is completed. And you can find everything you need to know about the General Assembly by accessing the following links. So all of these links discuss all of the information that I've provided you this morning, as well as more detailed information. And as promised, we're going to talk about Prince George's County Council, which is the legislative arm of the county. There are 11 members that represent the 9 districts. So you have 1 county council member for each of the districts, which is listed right here on the right side of the screen, and 2 at-large members that represent the entire district. There are 3 functions of the district. You have their county council that talks about the legislative and business matters of the county, your district council, which talks about the zoning and land use, and your board of health, which talks about the health policy issues. The county council meets on Tuesdays in the council hearing room, which is on the 1st floor of the county administration building in Upper Marlboro. So it's downtown Upper Marlboro, not too far from the Amish market, across the street from the courthouse. It is also where the district council meets on the 2nd and 4th Monday. And the board of health meets as required. So you can imagine they met a lot during COVID, or they met during COVID. The council recesses in August and December, but I want you to know that all council sessions are open to the public, and you can also view them on demand. So you can actually go and listen to them in person, or you can access it online. The session can be viewed also on demand or on CTV channel 76. Call 301-773-0900 or visit CTV for the programming schedule. For your district, if you're not sure because it's not listed right here on the right side of the screen on this district map of the county, you can go to this website and you can find out what district you belong to and who your county council member is. I want to stay in touch. I want to answer your questions. I know I threw a lot of information at you today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send an email to the email address listed on the screen. Or again, you can contact me via LinkedIn. My name is Dania Lofton. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this information with you today.
Hello again. We certainly hope that you enjoyed that video and the information that was shared that will be useful to you as you plan to vote in this year's elections. Again, the primary date is July the 19th, and you will hear these dates several times during the end of this presentation. Now, a disclaimer, if you were able to find SB 50, this year, the committee hearing, the title is Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. The information that was provided in the video was from last year. Again, I hope that you were listening to Ms. Lofton as she pointed out notable first for the state of Maryland, the election of Adrian A. Jones as the first Black female as a Speaker of the Maryland House of Delegates. We can also celebrate a first for the United States Supreme Court with the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as our most recent addition to the Supreme Court. Now, to round out our workshop for this evening, Ms. Neat Christmas, our Voter Education Subcommittee Chair, as well as the lead for this event, will share some information about the importance of voting in the local, gubernatorial, down ballot elections this year, and some key information about this year's election cycle. Neat, take it away.
Hey y'all, thanks for hanging in. We certainly appreciate that. Thanks for staying here with us for Civics 101. Shout out again to my sister-in-law, Ms. Dania Lofton, for her spirited, informative, and necessary information that was given, you already know it, enthusiastically. Now that we know how the systems of the legislature work for us, let's talk about who works for us. Or as we say in this particular season, who wants to apply for the job? So as Ms. Lofton's presentation pointed out, there is a process for making the laws that govern us. However, in the last few years, we have seen how those laws actually affect us, not only here in Maryland, but about the country as well, as we went through and are still traversing through the COVID-19 pandemic. Because some states elected leaders who were seemingly more concerned about health and welfare and our well-being, there seemed to be a higher number of people that survived the pandemic, or at least got good information as we were moving through the pandemic. So the precautions and the laws that were put in place to protect us, even though some of us didn't want to be protected, the folks that we put in place to do that certainly did their job. So I want you to think about what those laws were, like mask mandates, mandatory vaccines, eviction bans, mortgage reliefs. All of that was your legislature looking out for you during the pandemic. So as we are approaching another election season, think about, as President Biden said, who brung you to the dance. So hopefully this election season, we can choose electors who will put our best collective interest in the forefront as they're making decisions about us. So let's talk about us and remember that. First, us. Well, the us that I'm talking about is comprised of people who actually vote, people who voted, or are planning to vote. And as they say, you can't complain if you didn't vote. Well, who is they? Me. I'm they. And you can't complain if you didn't vote. So if you are unsure about any aspect about voting, registration, polling places, eligibility, electors, candidates, all that stuff, there are a number of sites where you can go to get the information. Any state's Board of Elections is the best and least partisan place, hopefully, that you can go to get this information. One of those such places is in a very broad sense, US.gov, us.gov. It is a collection of all states and state links to specific boards of elections, and that is www.usa.gov. And since I brought that up, we're going to go there. So Alt tab here. Oh goodness, okay. Yeah, you didn't need to see that. I'm a watcher of Bridgerton, so that's what that's all about. But we're going to go to www.usa.gov. Okay, so as I said before, if you can see, this is a federally run site where we can find a collection of all things relative to the federal government, but to states governments as well. So say, for instance, you are in South Carolina and you want information about South Carolina Board of Elections. Now, in full disclosure, I am from South Carolina, so shout out to the South CAC. But if I were on this, at this event, and I was like, well, I don't know how to get to the South Carolina Board of Elections, you could come to usa.gov. or if you were from Alabama or Tennessee or Virginia, any place. So right here in the search bar, as you can see, I'm just going to type South Carolina elections. Well, let's go Board of Elections. So there you go. Here it is, SouthCarolinaVotes.gov, voting and elections in South Carolina. And what happens at this particular site is it's going to take you to official places, states' sites as it relates to their elections. So at a glance, this seems to be a great resource. Look around, you know, try it on, see how it fits, and then look at the information that you're giving. And like I said, we chose South Carolina, although, you know, I am a bit biased. Now, if you like, since I am now a Maryland resident, I'm going to search Maryland elections, TIONS. Did I spell it right? Okay. And there you have it, Maryland Board of Elections. So the reason that I brought you guys here was because I took for granted that the social justice ministry, our reach is far beyond Prince George's County, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't not include certain states, but most of us are here in Maryland. So again, as we search Maryland elections, this is the site that's here. So this is the information that's here. So let's go to the Maryland Board of Elections. So if you look here on the site, looks pretty good. And like I say, it's mostly nonpartisan. It's all of the information that you conceivably get. And because we talked earlier about we're going into the election season, here's something that's helpful. The 2022 candidate list. We're going to click on this. So here you'll see all of the 2022 gubernatorial primary candidates listings for Comptroller, Attorney General, U.S. Senator, House of Delegates, the whole nine. If you knew your particular district, this is where you could come to find that particular information. But since this is the gubernatorial primary candidate listing that's here, let's start with governor and lieutenant governor to see who's running. So here's a complete list of everybody in the state that's running. They start with the Republicans. My understanding is it starts with the Republicans because currently the governor is a Republican, so they kind of give whoever's in there. That's where we start. The list is alphabetical, so we can see here that the first person on the list is Dan Cox, and he is a Republican. Now, I don't know how you've decided to get your information about whomever is running, but this is definitely a good place to start. We've got his name. You see what jurisdiction he's from, when he filed. There's a website for him, his Facebook address, Twitter, and a telephone number. But let's just say you wanted to do your own independent research. So we're going to do, and that's what this is about. Remember, I started this with about us. So we're going to do a search, our own research, our own independent research on Dan Cox. We're not going to go to his website. We're going to do our own stuff. So Google search Dan Cox. So here's what comes up. Daniel L. Cox, Republican 4th District. There's his Instagram feed, everything that we want to know about him. There's some nice pictures, I assume so. This is all the information that we want about Mr. Cox. So here's a site that says coxforfreedom.com. I'm just going to click on this again. This is all about independent research about whomever it is that's running for those jobs that Dania just told us about, but the people that govern us and the people that make decisions for us. And in the last 2 years, the people that kept us safe from COVID. So here's Mr. Cox's website. There he is. I don't know who that is with him, but here's all the information about, and he has the endorsement of the last president. So here's the information about Mr. Cox. All right, we're going to go back, same site. I'm sorry, we're going to go back to the Maryland site. So as we give equal time to everybody, we looked up Mr. Cox, who was a Republican. These are all the Republican candidates for governor, so to speak. And our first Democratic nominee, I'm sorry, not nominee, candidate is Mr. Rashawn Baker. Again, here's all the information for Mr. Baker. It tells us where he's from, his contact information, his Twitter account, telephone number, the whole nine. But just in case we don't want to go to the website that he has listed here, because I'm sure it'll just list all the wonderful things about Mr. Baker, and we want to do our own independent research, do like I do. Google is your friend, and we're just going to Google Mr. Baker here. Highlight his name, search Google. There he is. There's that website that we talked about, maryland.gov, pictures of Mr. Baker, Wikipedia, articles about Mr. Baker, Maryland Matters, Ballotpedia, Instagram, all this information about Mr. Baker. And again, we always want to do our own independent research. Let's just say, though, that one of these things strikes our fancy, like an opinion about him from the Washington Post. Certainly click on that and see what other people are saying about Mr. Baker. But here's the thing that I want to point your attention to for this candidate and all candidates as you're going through your own independent research online. Check your sources. It is very important that you not only know who you're looking for, but who's saying what about that particular person. If you say the Washington Post, look and see who owns the Washington Post. Oftentimes when you get to these sites, if you go to the bottom, by the way, I'm not paying for 4 weeks of the Washington Post, as you see at the bottom, not doing that. But at every website, there's always a spot, I wish I could find one, that says about us. If this were a site, say from the Washington Examiner, and you do some information, or you go to the Washington Examiner site, if it's an article, say about Rashawn Baker, that ends up on the Washington Examiner, you go to there, you read the information, but what you want to do is question, who is the Washington Examiner? At the bottom of most websites, there's a spot that says about us, and it is telling you about that particular source. So when you click on the source, the Washington Examiner should tell you that it is a conservative newspaper. And there's nothing wrong with being a conservative, but just know that the things that you'll see there at the Washington Examiner are going to have that conservative slant, so to speak. That's what you're looking for, it's cool. But if you want a rounded perspective on these people, just know who's giving you the information. So that's very important. Go to every spot about that person and look and see who's giving you the information. So to further example that, as we go back and start at the beginning where I started, was you're looking for voter information, right? So back to the Google search, I'm just going to type in voter information just to prove a point. So the first thing that comes up is iVoter Guide. Sounds pretty benign, right? I vote, I want to vote. So I'm going to go, so if I'm looking for voter information and I didn't come to this event and I didn't hear Neat say I could go to usa.gov, but I'm just Googling stuff and this comes up, you go to ivoterinformation.com. There it says guide. So I'm going to click it and maybe it'll open. It's going slow. Very slow. All right, here you go. So a map came up. It says information by state. You might see here at the top where it says grounded in God, rooted in research. That might be something that appeals to you because, we're here at the First Baptist Church of Highland Park Social Justice event. Here's all this stuff here. But here's the thing that I wanted to point your attention to. About us. Our team, our research, frequently asked questions. So let's go to our team or about us and just find out who is it that's running these sites or who is it that you're getting your information from. Walker Wildham, Rob Chambers, here are the founders, Richard Ford. Now I would, and here's again, I vote, and here also in the bottom, is iVote Guide is a division of American Families Association Act. Let's click there because it is a link. So this is who is behind the I Vote guide. Please understand what it is that I'm trying to say to you. Research, don't settle for just what happens there. Understand that whoever it is that's providing the information, they may or may not have a slant that may or may not be helpful to you, but that is for you to decide. In each instance, having more information is always going to be better than having less information. You do not want to just find information that continues to reverberate the things that you already think. Sometimes it's good to have a opposing thought. You do not want to exist in an echo chamber. My opinion, and this is my opinion and not the opinion of the Social Justice Ministry or First Baptist Church of Highland Park. However, I believe that January 6th was a consequence of people in an echo chamber where you're only getting information from the sources that support the ideas that you already have. So while you choose who's going to get those jobs that Dania talked about, just make sure that you do your own independent research. And although talking to your neighbor might be okay, and that might be all the research that you need about who it is that's running for these offices, make sure that you do your own information, search of information. Always go in these internet sites and Google, or I'm sorry, not Google, but click on the links that always say about us and find out who is it that you're getting your information from. Always choose, because as I said in presentations in the past, our lives could depend on it, and it certainly did that as a consequence of COVID and who it is that we had in those positions making those decisions for us. So thank you for listening. If you've learned nothing, just continue to, what is it I want to say? Research the people that you're getting your information from. Thanks.
Thank you, Neat, for that inspiring presentation and for letting us know where to go and for making sure that we do our own research. That is very, very important. We thank you for joining us tonight. This concludes our workshop. If you have any questions, any comments, please drop them in the chat for us. We appreciate your time. We want to make sure that we thank our presenters for tonight. I see Ms. Lofton is still with us. It's good to see you. Did you have any closing remarks that you wanted to make?
Make sure that you go back through this information, you review this information, you become familiar with it. And I think that on July 19th, if you do these things, you will know who to vote for and you'll be prepared to vote.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are so excited. We are grateful for the opportunity to share the video from last year and looking forward to your presentation on the 28th of July, which will be in preparation for the general elections, which will happen in November. Thank you for taking the time to join us on tonight. Let's see. Pastor Davis, you're still on the line. I think if you had any comments you wanted to make.
Excellent night. And again, appreciative of all the information. And I'm already looking forward to the 28th. And we'll have a lot of results in. There's a lot of candidates, a lot of running, a lot of campaigning, a lot of candidates coming through the church. And so I look forward to the election.
Great. And thank you so much. So as we begin to close on tonight, we want to thank all of our participants. We want to thank our presenters. We want to thank Ms. Chase for the work that she does as the Vice President of the Social Justice Ministry, and certainly Ms. Christmas. She has been the lead for this event and is also the lead for our voter information subcommittee. So thank you so much for your efforts. Our tech team, we want to thank you. This certainly would not have been possible without all of the work that you do, the prep work, the work during the event. Your flexibility is phenomenal. So we certainly thank you for that. We thank all of the social justice ministry members for participating in tonight's event, as well as the work that you do behind the scenes as we work to advocate for justice in our community. Thank you to our First Baptist Church of Highland Park family for your support and for working with us as well. Pastor, thank you for always supporting us and guiding us and being available for our events. And if I have forgotten anybody, I'll charge it to my head and not my heart. Again, we look forward to our presentation on the 28th of July. And just for a note, the Social Justice Ministry has a couple of events coming up. On the 12th of May, which is also a Thursday night, we will have a domestic violence, sexual assault workshop. And we invite you to join us for that event as well. The information will be posted on our FBHP.org website in the scrolling screen of events that are coming up, as well as for those of us who will be in attendance at service or online attending, it will be announced through our connections team. I think that's it for us. Again, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. We hope and pray that you received information that will encourage you to do the work and vote. Our voice, our vote, our victory. The work is at hand. We cannot allow our democracy to be overturned in any way at any time. Thank you and God bless. Good night.